Well, hello there, and welcome to the 2021 Indiana Black Expo Minority Small Business Series presented by Key Bank. Today's webinar will focus on personal and professional branding, and when done effectively, how it can increase your bottom line. My name is Denise Hurd, and I'm the founder and president of Hurd Strategies, a full-service public relations firm headquartered in downtown Indianapolis, and I'll be your host for this afternoon's session. I'd like to thank all the sponsors and partners for their support in putting this webinar together. But before we start, I have a few housekeeping rules for you. First of all, if you have a question, please type it in the Q&A box, and we will answer as many as possible before our session ends. Also, towards the end of the session, there will be a link to a session survey in the chat box, and we ask that you fill out that survey to assist us in planning future webinars. So today's panelists for our session include Marsh Williams, who is the founder of Shout Out Studio, David Hunanya, who is the founder of Byline, an on-demand photography platform built for advertisers and agencies to source authentic visual content at scale. And we also have Juwan Nelson, who is the founder and lead producer and director of Legacy Canvas Films. So let's start with each panelist telling us a little bit about themselves and providing an overview in their area of expertise on marketing, branding, and storytelling. So first up, Marsh, can you tell the audience a little bit about your company and the importance of content and why content matters so much?
Yeah, thank you, Denise. We really appreciate it. Shout Out Studio is 10 years old. We're a marketing firm. Our specialty is that we work with small businesses. That was what we were really founded to do. Most of the people involved in the startup had come from organizations where they were dealing with very large national or global clients, and we just love small businesses. We think small businesses are the backbone of everything that goes on in this country and are the ones who make cities, make neighborhoods, and make a difference. So that's really our focus.
Awesome. So, Marsh, is there anything else you want to share with us about your company and what you do specifically for businesses?
Sure. I think, Denise, we work specifically with companies to help them work on their brand message, their strategy, and then we help them implement it. So the way we work with clients is one of two different ways. Either in the role of a traditional marketing agency, where we come in and we'll take on projects and work with them to complete those projects. The other way we work with clients is a little bit unique. We actually come in and work as their marketing department. So we become their in-house marketing department. We're all virtual. And so we work with them from the strategy, the business strategy, everything else, and provide them all the resources they would have inside.
So that's fascinating, because there's nothing like having outside resources embedded within your organization to help you and have that be their primary focus to drive your business forward. So that's
it works really well, because what happens is they may need graphic designers one day, they may need copywriters the next day. And for a lot of companies that can only afford one individual, for about the price of one individual, we can provide an entire staff. Mm-hmm. So what I want to talk a little bit about now, if it's appropriate, I don't know if you want to go to Juwan or David, but I've got a very short deck that talks a little bit about brand, I think, which kind of gets to the heart of what we want to do and sets up what Juwan and David were going to talk about later.
Well, since we're with you, why don't we continue the conversation with you? And then David, when Marsh gets done, I'm gonna swing over to you. And then Juwan, I'm gonna kick over to you once these two gentlemen get done. And as you see, ladies, I have an all-boy band today, so bear with me as I guide them across the finish line where marketing and communications is concerned. So Marsh, go ahead and take over from here.
Okay, thanks, Denise. This is a really simple and short deck, but I want to talk a little bit about brand here. Brand gets to be this ethereal thing. Big companies deal with it, small companies deal with it. But the thing that's important is everybody has a brand, regardless of the size of your organization or anything else. And to prove that point, I'm going to just show you a couple of things real quickly. What I want you to do when you see these next few slides is think about what your immediate reaction is. What's the first thing you think about when you see this image? So as that goes, what's the first thing you think about? Right? That's their brand. Everybody has one. And that immediate thing that you have is what their brand is. And this is a thing that we say that sometimes gets a little crazy, but the only place your brand exists is in somebody else's mind. It's what they think of you as a company, what they think of you as an organization, how they relate to you. It can be negative, it can be positive, it can be neutral, but that immediate gut reaction when you see a logo like this is the company's brand. Expensive, well designed, whatever it may be. And so everybody has a brand. And as I said, the only place it exists is in somebody else's mind. Brands are like toddlers. You get them ready, you dress them up, you do whatever else, but you put them out there and then they're going to act and people are going to respond to them however they do. And that's really an analogy for a brand. So the question is, what's your brand? Some people we've talked to, well, we don't really have a brand. Well, the answer is you do. And if you want to know what your brand is right now, you can go look at Google reviews, you can look at Yelp, or you can look at Facebook reviews, because your customers will tell you what your brand is. They'll tell you what they think of when they see your company logo or hear your company name. And that's something that's really important to remember as you go forward in this, that the customers are the ones who really control what your brand is. And we'll talk a little later about marketing versus brand and what that is. But so this is the hard part. What do you want your brand to be? What do you want people to think of when they think of your company? What do you want them to know about your company? What is the one thing they should associate with your company? If you think of a brand as a person, how would that person dress? How would that person talk? How would that person relate to other people? Would they be incredibly formal or very casual? All of those things go into that decision. The most important thing is a great brand is authentic. David and Joanna and I had a wonderful discussion the other day as we were getting ready for this about the importance of authenticity. Authenticity, in our opinion, everybody has a different view, but in our Shout Out Studios opinion, authenticity trumps everything. It is the number one thing. It is that when people see your marketing or your messaging or your post on Facebook or Instagram or whatever platform you're on, and they then interact with you, they're the same thing. They're not, some companies will go out and try to be very big and very impressive and seem like they got a lot going on. And then you go meet them and, it's two people working at a small shop. Well, there's a dissonance there. That's where things don't go together. And so that's not being authentic. But authenticity is, without a doubt, the biggest currency of the internet. It wins over everything. People right now, in particular, want to understand the companies they deal with. It's a great time for local businesses, local brands to be working with the community. There's been this huge swing in the last 2.5 to 3 years of people looking back to their community and realizing all the great things that small businesses do to help build their community, help them make great places to live. And it's just a wonderful time right now. People are paying less attention to the large national brands. And you'll see this in some cases. For example, a couple of national beer brands have tried to disguise themselves as local brew houses. And it's failed miserably because people see through it immediately. They're not being authentic, and people see through it immediately. The important thing about why brand authenticity is it's the only thing that makes your business unique. It's the only competitive advantage you have Think about it. Think about how many other companies do what you do. How many other companies say what you can say? So the only thing that makes you unique is your brand, is who you are, how you do business, how you talk, the way you interact with customers, what you want customers to understand once they engage with you. Are you all about customer satisfaction? Are you about providing value for the money they spend? Those are the things that make you unique and really define what an authentic brand is about. It's you, it's your story, it's your vision of what you want your customer experience to be and what you want your business to be. And it's also incredibly important that it be your staff, if you have one, that your staff understand that. Your staff understands what you want to do and how you do it. There's a place in Columbus and a few other cities called City Barbecue. And the owner tells his number one thing is he wants people to be happy with the experience of having gone to the restaurant. That's the number one thing he wants. Yeah, great food, no question about it. But in terms of experience, he wants customers to know that he wants them to be happy. He tells his staff, he said, I want every one of you to pretend you've got $100 bill in your pocket. And if a customer has a problem, you can spend up to $100 in giving them a credit and giving them other services or food, whatever you want to do. You can spend that $100 to make that customer happy. No questions asked. I'll never come back to you and say, why did you do this? And that's how he's communicated that to his staff to make sure they understand it. And it works. It works like a charm. But once you understand that, and once you're getting down to the basics of what your brand is, it's find it, tell it, promote it, and most of all, stick to it. Stay with that message. Make sure you do that. Make sure it's going out. Make sure people understand this. So when you're doing things on social media, remember you're doing it for your company, not yourself. You're speaking in the company's voice, the company's brand, not your personal brand. Now, if they happen to be the same thing, great. But if they are different, remember, you're always speaking as the company out there. That's just a real quick overview. We've got a few things we go through a little later. We get into discussions on marketing. But Denise, I know I went through a lot. The one thing I do want to mention is I'm pretty sure we're recording the webinar, and there will be a recording available for everybody. It should be up by tomorrow. And then any of the decks that we have, we will also make those available. So don't worry about frantically taking notes. We will make sure you get copies of all the decks that you use too. So Denise, with that, I'll stop. If you have any questions, I'll answer them because I know I went over my allotted time.
It's all right. No problem at all. That was really great information. And I think it's important. The one important thing that you said a lot of important things, but one thing that really stood out is the fact that reminding everyone that your brand is you. It is you. And so a lot of times, and 9 times out of 10, people will interact with your brand before they interact with you. So it's very important that you have some sort of brand identity developed and that your brand is consistent in whatever environment an individual may interact with your brand. So whether it's social media, whether it's face-to-face, whether it's your website, whether it's your brochures, whatever elements you create, everything must be consistent and reflective of your brand, because chances are they're going to meet your brand before they meet the physical you. So Marsh, thank you so much for that conversation about brand. And I'm confident we'll come back to that when we, in the Q&A portion. But for right now, I'd like to talk to your colleague, David, because he has created a company called Byline. And I'm really curious, as he comes on camera now, to ask him, based upon some previous ventures that he has had, why did you start Byline? And what do you tell your clients about authentic branding?
Sure. So a couple things really quickly. Thank you, Marsh. Thank you, Denise, for having me. This is a great conversation, and I'm excited to be a part of it. But to answer your question, so my background, I've been a startup entrepreneur for 20 years. And, as a startup entrepreneur, it's always been about identifying opportunities and providing those solutions. So 20 years ago, my first startup was a job board. So back when job boards were really changing the way companies recruited candidates and disrupting that industry, we decided we wanted to be a part of that disruption and created our own job board. Created some real success, had a great exit. It allowed us to pursue other opportunities. And that's when we really started looking at advertising and marketing. And back in 2010-ish, we identified an opportunity within the out-of-home advertising space. And when you look at the out-of-home advertising space, which is, if you think about advertising, traditional advertising is television, print, radio, right? Everything outside of that is billboard, truck side advertising, those types of things, everything that's outside of the home. And we saw another opportunity to take an incredibly fragmented market, create a marketplace online, and create efficiencies around how advertisers bought ad spots. We did really well with that. I actually sold my equity, my interest in that company a few years ago. But what it taught me was back then, it wasn't about the brand or the story. It was all about creating as many opportunities to get in front of the customer, right? That disruptive sort of advertising. Here's a 30-second ad spot on NBC, and we're going to tell you about our company as quickly as we can and give you a phone number and give you a URL so you can call us or email us today. Mm-hmm. That has changed dramatically, fundamentally changed in the last 5 years. And Marsh spoke to it. Now it's all about the brand story. And you have to be able to, it doesn't matter if you're a big business or a small business, if you're enterprise like Nike or BMW, or if you are a local company, you have to create a brand story. It has to be incredibly crisp and easy to understand, easy to consume for consumers today, because consumers are smart and consumers are bombarded. And again, without that, and I'm going on, so I'm not telling a crisp story, but that's what we have to do today as small business owners, as enterprise companies. So hopefully that answered your question.
It did. Thank you so much for sharing that, because you've been such a visionary. So I wanted everyone to get an understanding of, your background and how, what entrepreneurs do. They find a need in the market, they find a solution, they build that, and then they scale it, and then maybe they move on to something else. So thank you for sharing that. So, but I know you want to talk about branding, so I'm going to hand it off to you to do that.
Sure, thank you. And I put together a presentation, and happy to share my presentation with you guys. Let's see, share. Okay, can you see the slide?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I put together a quick 10 slides, and the 10 slides, the presentation is called Creating Content, Telling Stories, and Not Selling Ads, basically. And so, as the founder of Byline, and, Byline, just a really quick background, we have been in business for about 5 years now. And we're in the business of on-demand photography. So we work with big brands like Scott's Miracle Grow, which is, you see the photo here. We work with JP Morgan Chase, Root Auto Insurance, Nationwide Insurance, and again, a number of big brands around the country. And what we do is we connect the brands that we work with, the agencies that we work with their content creating fans and customers. So imagine every single person, right, that has one of these means we're creating content. How do we encourage content creators to create great visual content for the brands that they support? So the photo that I have here for Scott's, there's a bit of a story, and I'll tell that story in a few slides. But so this next slide, I thought if I'm going to tell I'm sorry, if I'm going to share with everyone today how to create great visual content for their personal brands and their businesses, I might as well start with my own personal brand. And so the 6 photos that you see are really my story, right? My name is David. I'm a 3-time entrepreneur. I love coming up with big ideas and surrounding myself with people who also have big ideas. I love having great conversations with friends. As a matter of fact, photo number 3 is a conversation that I was having with Marsh at a coffee shop. And Marsh just took my photo as we were chatting. But I also love traveling with my wife, specifically taking extended beach vacations, spending time with my pup. His name is Scratch. He's 12 years old. He's a super cute little guy. I hang out with him every single day. But most importantly, I love great pizza. And if you look at my Instagram, it's more of a foodstagram. I have more photos of food on my Instagram than really anything else. So again, that's my story. That's how I tell my story, through great visual content. So how do we do that for brands, right? How do we do that? It doesn't matter if you're a small business, big business. How do we inform our audience members, inspire them, engage them? How do we do that visually, but also authentically? So, and there's 3 steps that I put together in this slide, or I'm sorry, in this presentation. There's a couple different ways. Again, we can be informational or we can be inspirational. We can do both, but that's a lot harder. But if you are for example, if you're an attorney or if you're a CPA, you're likely consulting individuals or small businesses, which means you want to be informational. You want to be able to provide information. So for example, my CPA I've worked with for 15 years now. I don't need him to inspire me. I need him to inform me, so I don't get in trouble with the IRS. The design community that I work with, like Marsh, for example, we work together very closely. I work with Marsh for inspiration. And the reason I put the 2 brands here on this slide, Dell and Apple, when you look at Dell, and if you go to any product page on Dell's website, they start with the information, the things that matter, the specs of a laptop, for example. So if you're looking at a laptop on Dell.com, Dell is going to tell you this laptop is 8 megs. It's has a terabyte hard drive. It's a 13-inch monitor. It's all of the specs that will give you the information you need to make a purchase decision. Apple is just the opposite. Apple is saying, hey, look, if you are looking to create the next greatest video for Hollywood, then use one of our products. Oh, and by the way, here are the specs. Specs don't come first. Specs are important, but what they do is they inspire people. And so that's where I think step 1 comes into play. If you're a small business and you're looking to, again, to create that brand story, that's where you need to start. And it's interesting, 20 years ago when I was part of Do Media, brand story wasn't even a phrase. Brand story never came into the conversation, but it really does today. So step 2 is, once you've identified who you are as a company and the direction you want to take, it's all about creating that mood board, right? So imagine, for example, if you were building your first home, what do? You create a mood board, right? Your mood board is, here are all the elements or finishes or fixtures that I want my kitchen to have, or my bathroom to have, or here are all the paint colors that I want. Same is true for your business. And if you're creating a bakery or if you're creating a law firm, what's that mood board? What are the visual assets that you want to create or source in order to tell your brand story? So, and then the next part of that step is to start shooting and sharing that content. And I'll show you. There's a company here in Columbus, and it's a bakery. It's called Patisserie Lallier. And Patisserie Lallier, they don't even have a storefront, but they've done an amazing job of creating this following online. They create great content. They share great content. It's inspiring content. And it's interesting, the founder of this company, Patisserie Lallier, again, they don't have a storefront. it's one person that runs the company, and she's not only the head chef, the pastry chef. She's operations, she's finance, she's marketing, she's the content creator, and she does a great job of creating content, not only on around her products, but what inspires her. So if you take a look, for example, in the upper right corner, there's a beach photo, and that's, travel. If you look in the bottom left, that looks like a photo of a succulent. And if you look sort of in the middle bottom, there's a photo of berries. So it's not just her brand, but it's all the things that inspire her as a brand. So she does an amazing job. And I think that's the other piece. It's not just creating content around your brand, but all the things that inspire you and all the things that really make up sort of the DNA of your brand and your brand story. So step 3, once you create, again, that direction, which was step 1, step 2 was to start creating content. Step 3 is really telling the story in a really compelling way, in a really crisp way. And what I did here on this slide is, it's really simple. Don't sell your story, tell your story. And I'll give you just, even though I have like 6 or 7 brands, there's 2 that I think are important. One is Everlane. And if you take a look at Everlane and how they message and the DNA of their brand, they start with 3 words. And those 3 words are fewer, better items. And as a clothing company, those 3 words really resonate, right? We want, as Everlane, we want consumers to have fewer, better brands in their closet. I'm sorry, fewer, better items in their closet. They want to tackle this problem of, filling landfills, if you will. There are too many T-shirts that fill landfills, for example. They want to solve that problem. Here's the best part about that story. When they say that they want fewer, better items in closets, what does that mean? That means they're charging more, right? Which means it's better margins. But the other thing that they're doing, because that message is so tight, they're able to give that message to their consumers, to their customers. And those customers can adopt that messaging, and they can actually start to amplify that same messaging, which is really exciting. If you can get a consumer or a customer to do that they can say, yes, not only do we believe in your product, we'll buy your product, but we'll also adopt your message and amplify your message. Now you've just won. And that's what Everlane does a really fantastic job of. And Dove does the same, and Chobani and Vans. But I don't know if you guys can see that little red chicken in the bottom right and with a little asterisk above it, but that's a company here in Columbus called Hot Chicken Takeover. And one of the reasons I thought it would be important to add Hot Chicken Takeover to this slide is because Hot Chicken Takeover, it's a local startup, it's a small business. They're not a Warby Parker or a Dove where they have billions of dollars to work with. It's a very small, but it's a very modest company. And their focus, not only is it on creating great products, which is Nashville style hot chicken, but they have a brand message that they've committed to from day one. 7 years ago, they said, we are only going to hire people who need second chance employment opportunities. And so when you think about that, people who have been incarcerated or people who have been in mental health institutions, those people that need second chances for employment opportunities, we're going to hire them. We're going to train them. We're even going to put them in leadership positions so they can thrive. They can be a success, right? And it's been amazing to watch Hot Chicken Takeover evolve and scale as a result, because you know what, that message was easy for consumers here in Columbus to understand and appreciate and adopt and then amplify as a result. So that's, again, the reason I share Hot Chicken Takeover, because again, they've done a really amazing job of creating a brand story that resonates. So I mentioned in my first slide that Scott's Miracle Grow and them being one of my big clients. The reason I thought it was important to share this story and this slide is because Scott's, again, they've been a client for 5 years now, and they buy thousands of photos from us every year for digital and social campaign work. And imagine the challenge a company like Scott's has, with collecting indoor photos, indoor garden photos, outdoor garden photos, vegetable gardens, front lawns, backyards. It's a real challenge for them. So what they've done is they've reached out to us and said, hey, look, can you help us identify consumers who can help us tell our brand story? And the woman on the left, and just a little bit of background on the couple. So the woman on the left and the gentleman on the right, they got married in 2018, May of 2018. And part of once they got married, part of the next step in their progression of their marriage was to buy a new home. And so they built a new home. They were trying to decide between sod and seed for their front yard. They decided to seed their lawn, and they decided to also document the entire experience, share those photos with us on Byline, and then we in turn shared those photos with Scott's. Scott's actually bought every single photo that they submitted through our platform. But not only did they buy the photos and they used them in their digital and social campaigns, but they actually created a story around it. They actually reached out to this couple and said, hey, we love your photos so much. We'd love to do a story on you guys. And they took that story and added it to their social media channels. And it was one of those once in a lifetime opportunities for a company like Scott's to reach out to an actual consumer of their product and leverage the conversation and leverage the story to elevate their brand and elevate their story on their digital and social channels. So that's the reason I share that. I think it's really important. Another campaign that we were really excited about. So about a year ago, right as the pandemic hit, Listerine reached out to us and said, hey, we need to shift our entire ad budget from product to honoring frontline workers. And they said, we want to do it in a way that's unique and it's authentic. And for a brand like Listerine, it's a billion-dollar brand, to say we want to be authentic, we didn't understand what that meant. But when they came back to us and said, hey, we want this campaign to literally, through the lens of friends and family members, capture frontline workers in their PPE and tell the story again through that friend or that family or that loved one. And you can see the photos that we captured, these are just two of like several hundred photos that we were able to capture for them. So just a couple of tools and tips. And I know I just talked about authenticity when it comes to photography, but I also understand if it's a challenge for some people to start collecting and creating and collecting great content. There's a couple places where you can go, a couple of platforms that you can use. Unsplash and Pexels, they're both great stock photography platforms that don't feel like stock photography at all. There's also Nappy, which is an up and coming platform for photography using African-American models. Gorgeous photography. Once you start collecting these photos, whether it's photos you take yourself, whether it's user-generated content, whether it's content that you source from one of the three platforms that I just mentioned, Canva is an amazing tool to use. It's a graphic design platform. It's free to use, and it's a great platform for small business owners to, once you identify your photos and your visual content, prepare it for use in social media. So, and then down below, I don't know if you guys can see, but down below there's Shutterstock and Getty. I don't recommend them at all. And the reason I don't recommend them is because, for a small business owner, their licensing can be complex and also very expensive. So that's really all I have. I know that we're going to open up to questions after Jawan, but thank you again for the opportunity to present.
So thank you so much. That was really great content. And I do, when we get to the Q&A portion, we do have a few questions in the Q&A, and so I want to encourage everyone to put your questions in the Q&A. And when our final presenter is finished, we will address those questions. But I want to reinforce something that David said. There are really great tools out there that you can access for little to no cost. Canva is a great tool for creating your own social media graphics. You can create flyers, all kinds of things, and you don't have to have a design background to use it. The templates are very user friendly, and you just kind of plug and play, if you will. So if you're not familiar with Canva, I strongly recommend that you visit it and experiment with a little bit. I also want to also reemphasize the use of Unsplash, Pexels, and even Nappy as a resource for your photography. We have a tendency to take screenshots of images that we see on Google and use them in our marketing materials. And you could violate a copyright by doing that and find yourself in a world of trouble. So use the right tools and resources to create your marketing materials and therefore to avoid any trouble on the back end. So I did want to share that with you all. So we're going to continue our presentations, and I'd like to introduce, and he's in my script as a young entrepreneur. He's not young. He's a powerful, emerging, and growing superstar. And he is using his skills that he's been given to teach companies how to use their voice in a creative and more authentic way. And so Juwan Nelson, as he comes online, I want you all to know he's the founder and lead producer and director of Legacy Canvas Films. So I'm so glad to have you here. And I just in my heart couldn't call you young. I just couldn't do it.
It's
So,
okay. It's okay.
So thank you. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Tell us a bit about your company and what it is that you do.
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank Indiana Black Expo for having me on today. It's truly an honor. So yeah, everybody, I'm 23 years old. My name is Juwan Nelson. I am the director and a lead videographer here at Legacy Canvas Films here in Indianapolis. What I do is I capture the stories of inspired brands and individuals to connect more intimately with their audience. So when I say more intimately, that means companies can advertise in many different ways or tell stories in many different ways. You can sell things, you can be salesy, or you can kind of show people behind the scenes and show people why you do what you do. And that's kind of what I do. I help a lot of athletes, a lot of sports teams, a lot of nonprofits, and just a lot of groups really help people understand why they do the things that they do. Kind of behind the scenes, kind of giving your audience kind of a backstage pass to kind of really understand why you do the things that you do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys a very quick presentation, and it will not take long. It will be really quick. So I'll start here, okay? Let's go to the top. Can everybody see that? Pretty sure you guys can. Cool. So tips on defining and marketing your brand. This will be really quick, everybody. So your website. So first thing I want to say is I have been in this space for, I would say 3.5 years now. So since I was 20 years old. And I just want you guys to know, like, I'm not a young person that says like social media or else. Like, I understand that there's plenty of companies out here that utilize social media very little or not at all and are very successful and are doing their thing. But I just wanted to kind of touch on some of the things that have worked for me and the people that I work with. So first of all, I think your website is like number one. Like, you definitely need to have that website there because it just validates you. If you're talking to somebody and you're talking to them about your service or your product, they're going to say, well, do you have a website? And if you say no, then that may be kind of a red flag. And sorry if you guys are already way past this and you have a website, but I think these are still things that you could use on it every day, even if you are pretty well off. But website, these are my 3 things I think a website should look like. They should be easy to navigate. They should get straight to the point, like with no fluff. I think most websites really should be like low on the copy and on the words. You really kind of just want to get to the point and let people know what you do and why you do it and tell your story. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys my website and how it kind of works for me. And like I said, like I do a lot of video production projects in Indianapolis, really all around the country, honestly. The majority of the work I do lately has actually been outside of Indianapolis. But I just want to show you guys my website because I think it's a great example of a very simple and easy website that I actually made myself on Wix, that you guys could design on Wix. Kind of like Canva, kind of plug and play, you make things happen. So if you look at my website here, first thing you see is my name and like my title, what I do. I'm a director and a filmmaker. Boom. As soon as you go on my website, you know that's exactly what I do. And if you look here, you see I have videos playing, I have visuals, I have something that can capture your eye as soon as you get to my website. So right away, when you land on my website, you see my name, you see my title, and you see my work right away. That's what I mean by like no fluff and getting straight to the point. You scroll down, here's like my mission and kind of what I do. I capture stories of inspired individuals and brands who want to connect more intimately with their audience. So if you have a cake shop or you have a bakery or you have a tax business, maybe you have some nice photos or a video of yourself really up here at the top to show people what your brand looks like. For me, my brand is very personal. Basically, I market my business through my personal brand. And that's pretty much how I do it. So that's why my website is set up this way. But you want to have something that captures them on the website. Then you want to let them know what you do right here. Boom, it's right here. It's they don't have to look for it. It's right there. And then right after you see what I do, my work is all right here, pretty organized, and you can kind of have that experience there. I just really think a simple website to navigate is very valuable nowadays with people's attention span and you know how quickly people can move on to somebody else or just get bored, I guess. If you also look at the top of my website, I only have 4 pages. This home page right here, it shows you my work. It comes down here to my work, and then here's the about. This is what I help a lot of people with is kind of the about section on their website and kind of storytelling and let people know what your brand is and why you do what you do. Because obviously, as Marsh said, there's plenty of other videographers and directors out there that do the same work I do and probably can produce better or the same as I do. And so somebody could just hire them. But what separates you is really your personal story and kind of how you got to where you got to. So here is like on my about page, I just have my name. I have a quote here that I kind of live by. And I have a video right here. You just play this video and I pretty much talk about how I got to where I am today, what motivates me and why I do the work that I do and why I'm passionate about that work. I really feel like these like simple things is really what has helped me so early on to have work, to have clients, to produce opportunities for myself, and then just the easy contact page. So I just want to show you guys my website so you can kind of see what I mean by a simple website that kind of gets straight to the point with not a lot of fluff and words. But obviously it depends on your business. Like you may need that, more copy and more words to explain what you're doing in your business. But I would just try to keep it to a minimum. Social media. This is the biggest thing, the talk of the town. Everybody wants to know, what should I be doing on social media? How can I get better at it? How do I actually increase my sales on social media? So like I said, social media is not the end all be all. I really do feel like my generation can fall into that. Like if you don't have social media, you're not going to be successful in business. And that is completely false. As we know, there are plenty of businesses out here that are successful. But if you use social media, even just a little bit, it's going to do nothing but help you. And if you use it a lot, it's going to help you significantly. So the first tip I have is have a theme or mood for the content that you post. So what you don't want to be doing is posting a lot of different types of things that look different and just aren't kind of, how do I say this? They're not contributing to the same subject or the same goal that your brand has. So I would try to keep things consistent. If you look at these Instagram posts up here, this is from an account called Uninterrupted. And I'm using Instagram as the platform here because it's a very visual platform, but this is the case for Twitter, Facebook, or anything like that. But this is a brand called Uninterrupted. And if you kind of look, like all their content looks the same. If you look at these two posts right here, these are iPhone videos, and all they did was add these captions under them with the yellow text there, and that's kind of their brand. That's their look. They shoot iPhone videos and they kind of overlay them with caption text in yellow, and that's kind of their brand. But they also do more high produced things. This is Stacey Abrams, who does a lot of work in Georgia, helping people get registered to vote. So they do high production things, but even when they actually paid a production company or a videographer to shoot this video, they still kept that same kind of brand message and kept everything consistent. So maybe that encourages you guys to let you know that you can use your iPhone, which I'll talk a little bit about more here. But be real. People can sense when you're not being authentic. I think even now more today, it's even more important to just be real with your audience and show them what you're doing and show them you. If you guys remember during COVID, like when COVID first hit and we were on lockdown and we didn't know what was going on, mostly every ad that we saw on TV was like produced through Zoom or produced through iPhones or produced through, just not high production. And that kind of proved to us that things don't have to always be produced at a high level. They don't always have to be produced by a big video crew or anything like that. Like content can be user generated as our previous speakers already spoke about. So hopefully that encourages you guys to create your own content. And like I said, I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Social media, again, I feel like it's the best portfolio. I feel like it's the new business card for me. Like I still hand out business cards, but like when I connect with somebody and I can just we can just connect on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook. Like for me, I'm in a very visual field. So that's better to me than handing them a business card. I'd rather let them connect with me on Instagram or Twitter or something like that so they can see my work, feel my work, understand the stories that I'm trying to tell, and understand what I'm trying to communicate through my brand. And like I said, I market my company through my personal brand on LinkedIn and Instagram and Twitter, more so than posting more on my business page, because it's just kind of what works for me. But definitely do what works for you, though. And I feel like people make decisions based on social media. If you think about it, people definitely make decisions on social media, like for things like restaurants, a lot of service-based and product-based companies. But people do make decisions. If somebody refers your company and they know you're the best lawn care company in the city, and if they look you up on Facebook or Twitter and they don't see anything, they may decide to go with somebody that does have social media. So that's why I always like encourage you to at least have it set up and have something on there that says what your story is. I don't always believe that you have to post every day or post a certain amount of times a week. It's good to have a content calendar ready to post when to post on a consistent basis. But at the very least, if you feel like you don't have anybody to post on social media every day or you can't do it yourself, at least have some content on there that tells your story. Maybe that's 2 or 3 videos that tell your story, or a nice set of photography that tells your story. But just have something that at least lets people know what you're doing and why you do it. I think that why, people have always talked about what's your why do you do what you do? And I really, really, really feel like that is the separating factor, that decision maker that people are going to choose you over somebody else. So now I'm going to talk about mobile phone content creation. I know there's a lot of brands, even here locally in Indianapolis, that really use the iPhone in a great way, and their businesses are successful. There are times when you need to hire a photographer or a videographer to get some higher quality content for your audience, because your audience does appreciate when things are produced at a higher level. But there's a lot of great things you can do with your phone. So in my opinion, I would rather go over iPhone over an Android. I just feel like iPhones are the best for content and just content creation, period. I just feel like they're more user friendly and they will produce the best results. But if you have an Android or whatever phone you have, just use it. Just use whatever you have. But if you're trying to decide, I would go with the iPhone. Channel your inner artistic self. I truly believe we're all artists. Like art is a huge word. The definition is kind of different depending on who you ask, but I do feel like everybody is an artist in some way. And you can take nice photos with your phone. Like these, especially iPhones, and some in the newer Galaxies and stuff too. This message is not sponsored by Apple or anything, but you can really do some amazing things with your phone without any experience in photography or videography. There are a lot of great things you could do. Get different angles. Sometimes you may need to bend down or stand up, or you know what I mean. Just try to get cool angles that maybe you haven't gotten before, and adjust your exposure. So on the iPhone camera app, there is a way that you can actually adjust the exposure on your camera. Instead of just taking the picture, you can actually like adjust the exposure and make it look how you want it to look. So there is a video. I'm not gonna play it now. It's only like 45 seconds, but I'll put it in the chat for you guys to check it out. But if you have an iPhone, I would definitely watch it, because it's gonna show you how to adjust the exposure on your iPhone to get better shots. So I'll put that in the chat here in a second. But I'm gonna talk about some local brands here in Indianapolis. I don't know how many people are local here in Indy, but if you are, you may know who these brands are. Here's some examples of great iPhone content for social media. These are two brands that are very successful, and they use strictly just iPhone for their content on social media. Here's the first brand here. It's called Hang Time. If you guys live in India, I'm sure you've seen it on 38th Street. They have one on 56 in Georgetown also. It's a streetwear and sneaker brand here in the city, very influential in the city. Pretty much everybody who's interested in streetwear and sneakers and stuff like that knows who Hang Time is. But as you can see, they have on Instagram, they have a great platform of 32,000 followers, and they post strictly iPhone content. Like they don't use anything else. My guy, Mike G, actually is the one who runs this account. So I know exactly how he produces all of this, but this is all iPhone. If you look, these are just all of his products laid out on the ground, and he's taking pictures from overhead, and that's what makes his products look the best. So if you have a product-based business, definitely just really try hard and don't get frustrated. Just take some time to really understand like what lighting is best for your products and what photos work the best, because you can really get some amazing stuff with iPhone. As you can see, like this page is very vibrant. The colors are popping, and it makes you want to kind of look around and shop right here on Instagram. So use your iPhone. This is my guy, Mike G. He's a big influencer here in Indianapolis. He's 28. He does a lot of food blogging. He also runs the accounts for Hang Time, as I said. But he does a lot of food blogging. He's a writer. He's an influencer. He hosts events around the city, and he only uses his iPhone to create content. And as you can see, like I'm sure if you look at some of these photos, I know David, I know you want a piece of this pizza right here. But I'm really trying to show you this so you guys can see the vibrance of what these phones can actually do. So definitely use them to the best of your ability. And Mike has 21,000 followers on Instagram, and he only uses his iPhone. So I just don't want you guys to get discouraged thinking that I can't create content, or I have to spend a bunch of money and hire photographers and videographers, or I don't know how to work with them. You should hire them for certain things, because sometimes you need things to be more highly produced. But use your phones to create content on social media. And here's some higher quality content ideas. So let's say you're using your iPhone and you're getting content, but now you just want to switch it up, or you want something a little bit more high quality, or you want a video to go on your website to show people what you do and how you do it. These are just some examples of what you can do. You can do a brand video. I produce a lot of brand videos, and a brand video basically, just like I've said before, they explain to your audience why you do what you do, because that is the one thing that's going to separate you from the next bakery or restaurant down the street. So that's what a brand video is, really showing people why you're different. And I produce a lot of those kind of in a more documentary style edit in the way that I shoot. That's why on my website, my like byline is to capture stories that inspire individuals to connect more intimately with their audience. So whatever marketing they have been doing, if it has been salesy or it really hasn't been about their story or intimate enough, that's when I come in and really get them in front of the camera, or their product in front of the camera. And we really show people behind the scenes kind of what it takes to produce my product. How much love do I put into making my product? I want my customers to see that so they can choose me and not the next person. So I'll show you guys something really quick. Behind the scenes process videos. I had a client last year called Air McLaren SP, which is an IndyCar team, a professional racing team here in Indianapolis. Obviously, like they usually post on social media talking about their results of the races that they race in, about their drivers, just like announcements. They're a sports team, so just the regular things a sports team would post. But when COVID hit and the Indianapolis 500 still went on with no fans, they wanted to find a way to connect their fans with the drivers and the mechanics and their team more intimately, since they couldn't be on the track. So I'll show you guys something really fast of how you guys probably won't be able to hear it, but just kind of, this is just a quick video, has 48,000 views of just like, these are the drivers of the team. And it's just like behind the scenes, them just kind of checking out this old school bus that their old team used to ride in. And it's just kind of a moment. Like, I just want to show you that this is kind of the content that I produce a lot, kind of behind the scenes, very intimate, not highly produced, to make their fans feel like that they are sitting with the drivers that they love so much, that they're fans of. Yeah, I just wanted to show you guys that. And it's almost at 50,000 views, so that's great. Branded photography also. This is the photography of my friend Jay Golds. Actually, he's a local photographer in Indianapolis. He's really amazing, as you can see. But things like this, getting some photography done, getting some video done, that really shows people what you do. If you look at this photo on the left right here, like, wow, like he owns a pizza shop. He just opened up a pizza shop in Atlanta, and I definitely want to go meet him or understand his story or just go support his business because I see his face. I see, I can see a story just in his eyes. And same with the woman on the right. She's a real estate agent, but these things are just things you can think about is when you want to brand your company and how you want to brand it, how you want to be seen. I just think it's very important. So always think about that. It can, some people are intimidated to work with videographers and photographers, but really look at their work. Check it out. Do you like how they shoot photos? If you're in a very niche market, like somebody in the chat put that they said, I think they said they're in the arts and culture realm. I would hire somebody that's probably already shot in the arts and culture realm. So, you just have more confidence in their work that they can get what you are looking for. So try to find people that you like, find people's work that you like, the moods, and then you can just kind of go from there. I think that is my last slide. So hopefully I didn't do that too fast, but.
Oh, you're perfectly fine. Thank you so much. We have just a few minutes left and we've got some questions in the chat. So I'm going to see how many questions we can get through in the last few minutes that we have. So if David and Marsh could come back online, and I want to ask, I'm going to kick these questions out to you all. So someone asked the question, our marketing always comes down to money, and some months we lose money, and with COVID, it's only gotten worse. How do we do any marketing in an environment where we don't have money to invest in marketing? So anyone can take that.
Let me jump on that one if I can, Denise. I think it's not an uncommon question, first off, but particularly during COVID. One of the things David talked about is getting people to amplify your story, getting people to talk about what you're doing. And I had a slide I was going to show, but we didn't get to it. But one of the best ways you could do that is ask your customers to give you social media reviews, give you online reviews. 88% of people that read a review online take that with as much validity if it was a direct referral from friends or family. 68% of people who are requested to leave a review will do one. And so reviews cannot be, the importance of reviews cannot be overstated. That's one great way. The other one is social media. I think one other thing about marketing is whatever you do, figure out what you can do easily and do it regularly. Marketing is a regular drumbeat. The purpose of marketing is to increase the size of the audience for your message. It's really simple concept. Get more people who know about you and know what you're doing. But once you start it, keep doing it. Don't start and stop and then come back 3 weeks later and then come back a month later. Marketing has to be done on a regular drumbeat basis.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We've got a couple more questions I want to make sure we're able to get to. So thank you so much, Marsh. I believe that you have to be consistent. You can't stop. It's that constant drumbeat. You're absolutely right. So here's another question that's in the chat. What differences exist in the approach for advertising on traditional media versus social media? And anyone can take that. Does
yeah, go ahead, David. Okay, Denise, can you say the question one more time? I'm sorry.
They basically want to know what's the difference in traditional media advertising and social media advertising.
Yeah, so in my opinion, I think social media is just going to be a lot cheaper most of the times to advertise your products or services. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously, like, the reaches could be different with traditional, with the radio and TV. But in my opinion, I just feel like nowadays, most of the marketing dollars should either go to social media or your website or SEO or something like that versus traditional routes, depending on your product. Like, there's some people that are very successful still going the traditional route and using the radio. It's kind of what works for you. But I just feel like the majority of people nowadays, social media is going to be it. And you can reach a lot more people for a lot less money, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100% agree with Jawan. It depends. It really also depends on your audience, right? Who you want to reach. The demographic is everything, and today's smart consumers generally, and even Marsh mentioned earlier, today's smart consumer will likely go to the internet, right, to check out reviews, whether it's a restaurant review on Yelp or a product review on Google, you name it. And I used to be in that world. With Do Media, with traditional advertising and non-traditional. I do think the future, to Jawan's point, is social.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because, the other benefit too is you can slice and dice exactly your ad spend, whereas you cannot do that with traditional, right? If you're advertising on traditional media, it's a guess. You're just throwing your sort of ad dollars at, let's hope this works out, versus with Instagram and some of these other platforms, you can get very granular with who you want to target, when you want to target them, even. So
I think one thing I'd like to add, that not just the granularity, you could target that exact audience, as David talked about. But not only that, you get the immediate feedback. You've got the analytics. You know who clicked on your ad. You know if they did what you want them to do. And so you can adjust as frequently as you want to get better. The opportunities in social media and internet-based stuff, we still do a lot of things that are traditional, but as David said, that's for that client. I think it's also a matter in social media of figuring out the platform. If, for example, you're a business-to-business client base, Facebook may not do a lot for you. You may want to be a LinkedIn. If you're a business to working directly with consumers, Facebook might be a great way to interact with your customers. So understanding that and the options that are available today, you can spend $100 on Facebook and get a great result. But unfortunately, you are going to have to spend money on Facebook to get anywhere with it. The average post that you put up on Facebook that you don't put money behind, 5.2% of people see it. That's it. If you got 100 followers, 5 people will see your post.
Thank you so much. That's so true. So very true. Someone would like to know, can I post the same content twice?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Keep
a lot of content
keep repurposing.
It's not dated or anything else. Don't hesitate to use it again, because people are on at different times, and who sees the people that are on in the morning that see it may not be on in the afternoon, and vice versa.
Right. David, what were you about to say? I'm sorry.
Oh, I just was going to say exactly what Marsh said, which, yes, repurpose content always.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with posting content repeatedly. I mean, the message didn't go away. Your marketing objective didn't go away. So yeah, keep hitting it out of the park. Someone else would like to know, how do I sell things better if I can't meet my customers in person?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I guess I can kind of speak on that just a little. I do know that I do purchase products from companies that sometimes I have no idea who they are, only because like an Instagram ad will come up, or it'll be something that I just really like. So I do know that, like, at least for e-commerce businesses, like paid advertising on Instagram and Facebook are effective if you know exactly who your audience is. The biggest thing is knowing who your audience is before you start spending money on Facebook and paid advertisement. But if you really have dialed in who you want to target in that niche market, then I think using some paid advertisements on social media, Instagram and Facebook is really effective. You don't have to meet them.
And here's a great follow-up question to that, and also to the comment that you just made. What do I do if my customer's idea of my brand doesn't line up with what I want the brand to be? And I think we've all encountered that throughout our careers. So what do you all recommend?
I think first thing is understand what the customer perception is. You know, their perception of your brand is based on their experience, whether that be direct or indirect. And so if they're getting the wrong message from that experience and that interaction, you know, one of the things you always have to do, and we do this all the time, is look in the mirror. make sure you're putting out there what you want them to relate to. I don't know, Juwan, David, jump in on that, but
Yeah, that's why I really encourage people to do some type of brand video or a set of photos that really shows people why you do what you do. In my opinion, so then people won't get confused about who you are and you know what your brand is or what your company is. You know, don't leave it up to people to be confused. Like let them know. And I think video is a great way to do that. I know that's what I do, but there's many ways you can do that. But you know, just telling people straight up and keeping everything straight to the point.
So we didn't talk a lot about marketing strategies, but something that I would recommend that every business owner do with their business is conduct a SWOT analysis. That's an analysis of your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats, because that plays into your brand as well. And then not only do you do the SWOT, have someone outside your organization conduct a SWOT on your company and compare and contrast your responses, because that also gives you some insight into how you see your company and how someone on the outside may see your company as well. And that can play into your brand identity and shaping your brand identity and also shaping your marketing messaging as well. So that's a bit more of the planning side, which is what you need to do before you go into any marketing tactic that we've discussed today. We need to plan it to make sure, you know, we are in alignment, because different customers will see your brand in different ways. So you want to make sure that the aspect or the essence of the brand that you're trying to convey resonates with the target that you're trying to reach. So I wanted to add that little pearl in. Another question in the chat. Oh, sorry, David, what were you about to say?
I was just going to agree with you. We're, you know, as marketers, we can be guilty of skipping that SWOT analysis.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. It is critical. So
yeah.
I just wanted to say, yes, 100% agree with you.
Thank you. And, you know, we even take our clients one step further from the SWOT to the TOWs. So where you look at your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats, then we ask them, how do we turn those threats into opportunities? And how do we turn those weaknesses into strengths? So and then we can start working on your marketing plan. So
Sure.
That planning part is so critical. Another question in the chat: is it true that when you combine your social media marketing with other traditional marketing, your reach and recall is much stronger?
I don't know that it's stronger, but we talk about client touch points.
Mm-hmm.
And typically we look for between 7 to 10 client touch points. Mm-hmm. And those are what's important. So that touch point can be anywhere. It could be video, it could be TV, it could be radio, it could be social, it can be print. It can be a lot of things, but those touch points are really cumulatively what creates the brand recall. Regularly seeing that messaging, so that if they see it in one social media account, they then look at your website, that all these things add up to different touch points. And typically it takes about 7 to 10 touch points to really get a client, get a customer to start thinking about you.
That's very true. Anyone else want to add anything to that?
Just really quickly, and you're absolutely right. Those touch points, every single touch point is all about building trust, right? It goes beyond the reviews, but again, it's all about building trust. And the only way you can do that is if you are consistently staying in front of that consumer, telling your story, staying consistent. Mm-hmm. And we use the word authentic nonstop. I know, but in an authentic way.
Absolutely. So. Another question that is in the chat is, what is the best way to market when you have only a few employees?
Guys,
I think it
first every time.
Yeah, can we ask what type of business it is? I think it really just kind of depends on.
Let's say you're give an example for B2B and B2C, business to consumer and business to business.
I think B2B. I think LinkedIn is like the best platform to like market B2B. In my opinion, I just think there's a lot more owners, decision makers are on LinkedIn. So I guess to answer that question, utilize LinkedIn B2B.
Okay.
the other thing is when you have a few workers, there's another resource we haven't talked about. Canva, I want to go back and echo that. Canva's fantastic. It will give you templates and designs and where the text goes on the image. All you have to do is drop your picture in and type what you want to say, and you're good to go on a lot of things. The other resource that we haven't mentioned is one called Fiverr, Fiverr. Fiverr basically is what's called the gig economy. You can find people on Fiverr who will do a month's worth of social media with a post every day, for $200 to $300 a month. Now, it's not going to be the same as hiring, Denise's firm or our firm or somebody else, but it's going to give you that extra body who's got the knowledge and the expertise to get it done quickly and get it out there. And so that's another way you can do it. And the expense on Fiverr is incredibly reasonable. And you get to see everything before it's done. So if you don't like it, you don't use it, you stop them working. But it's another resource to consider for companies who don't have a lot of workers.
I just want to let everybody know you guys should definitely use Canva for sure. I bet that's gotten all of us on this panel like out of some situations. So yeah, it's definitely helped out. So yeah.
Got one now. Yes. Yeah. Got one now. I would also, another resource that you can use are interns. I'm a huge proponent of interns. Pay your interns just a small little wager. And, and it's amazing. We hired an intern to handle our digital, and now he's about to become a full-time employee with our company and be our digital manager. So that he was a great resource. We got him when he was in undergrad. He's about to graduate. He's been with us a couple of years and he knows our culture. And that was a great resource for us. Just a couple of final comments and questions. Someone asked, would they get all the panelists' contact information? Yes, that contact information will be provided. And then someone else, we have one final question. When should I use influencer marketing to build social media versus paid ads? So when should you use an influencer versus utilizing paid in social media?
I'm going to throw a flag on influencer marketing. We've been down that road a lot. There are some very good, very legitimate influencers who will help you get where you want to go. There's also a lot of people who piled on, and we've run into influencers who say they've got 10 or 20 or 30 or 100,000 followers. And when we run an analysis, they've got maybe a couple of thousand. There's a lot of ways for people to take your money and not deliver results. So the only thing about influencer marketing is be very careful. Make sure you know the person, make sure you talk to other people they've worked with, and make very sure that there's some sort of guarantee of what they will actually deliver.
Yeah. I'm actually a big fan of influencer marketing a lot of times versus paid ads. But like you said, Marsh, you definitely need to make sure like their platform is actually getting the engagement that you want. Don't just look at the followers count. Like they may, like me, I'm somebody that only has 3,000 followers, but sometimes my engagement can be pretty high, honestly. But somebody else could have 20,000 followers and they may only be getting like 20 likes because you just never know how people inflate followers and things like that. But just check out the pages, look at the actual engagement, comments, likes, things like that. Make sure they're not robots or anything like that. But if they actually have a following, that's a good route to go down, especially in product-based businesses.
And if you can find an up-and-coming influencer, we've had the best luck with people who are starting out, starting to get traction, are really well suited for the client, but they're not at a point of looking at $20,000 for a post kind of a thing, which is not unreasonable for a lot of them.
Yeah, and just really quickly to add, I actually was working on a project last week for a new product company, and one of the recommendations that we made was, because it was all the project was both focused on influencers. Should we hire influencers? And if so, at what point? And the recommendation that we made was focus on the micro influencer or the nano influencer, those folks that may only have 1,000 followers or 5,000 followers, but they're exactly the types of followers that you need, right? So instead of because we can get enamored with the influencer that has 100,000 followers, but the reality is 90% or more are irrelevant.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
again, to Marsh's point and Jawan's point, focus on the right follower, not the big number, but the right number.
Yeah, I have one more point to. Oh, go ahead, Marsh.
All right, let me add it, and you can jump in. We also had a client. We said, build your own influencers. We went to them. We found some people who were doing things on Instagram who were not considering themselves influencers, but were doing great stuff. It was spot on, and we helped the client develop a relationship with them, and that person actually became an influencer at the behest of the client. So it was a win-win. Worked really well. Sorry, Swot, go ahead.
Juwan, did you have a final comment?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna make a quick comment on a specific experience I have with influencer marketing. Basically, in Texas, we were working with this company that makes like volleyball, like knee braces for women that play volleyball, and they were using University of Texas, which is like one of the biggest like women's volleyball programs in the country. They sell out games and everything like that. They were using like not the actual players there because that's like NCAA violations, but like the recruits that were going there, they were using those young volleyball players that have a following, that they know young volleyball players follow them, and they only had like 5,000 to 10,000 followers, but they knew that the majority of the followers were volleyball players, their exact target market, which is why they used them. Mm-hmm. It wasn't really based on followers or anything like that. It was just about, we know that the majority of people that follow them are our target audience. So yeah,
it's who they know. Perfect. That's a great example. So gentlemen, I'm going to have to stop you. I apologize. And thank you so much for your involvement today and your comments. And so thank you, Marsh. Thank you, David. Thank you, Juwan, for participating in this afternoon session. And I encourage everyone to visit the Minority Business Series webpage at indianablackexpo.com for additional information and resources to help with your business. Thank you again to all of our sponsors. And thank you again for all of you for joining with us this afternoon. Take care and go make some money. Have a great day.
Thank you.